rebrand the term personal brand. I've helped hundreds of people craft their personal brand successfully. But one big realization is that it is hard and people get hung up on it. Whether you're trying to build your career or your business, it works when you're real and when you're authentic. It absolutely requires strategy and focus, but being yourself is the key. So the issue I have with the phrase personal brand is that brand is something agencies and big corporations build to get you to buy something. And they spend enormous amounts of money doing that. Brand makes you think of jingles and packaging. So when you apply that method of branding, it requires you to treat yourself like an object. And that's really hard. It requires you to hover above yourself like a ghost and judge yourself. The secret to delivering a personal brand that's successful is not that. It's about showing up as a unique person with your unique point of view, personality, and yes, personal interests. One that's real and vulnerable. I think the best way to unlock that and to see growth in your career or business is to rephrase or rebrand the personal brand. And I recommend using the term professional point of view or professional perspective. That way you're focused more on your insights, your perspectives, and your values rather than your brand. I caught up with 2 experts to get their input on the idea of the personal brand. What are your thoughts on the concept of the personal brand?
I guess I have 2 main schools of thought. One is that I think it's something that we kind of do without realizing it. So I think everyone, whether you want to call it a personal brand or you just want to call it perception, personality, I mean, everyone has a personal brand, whether they call it that or not. And then there's the other part of me that thinks about branding a human as like incredibly dystopian, particularly because it just conflicts with my idea about what it means to be human. A brand in my mind is something that is static and unchanging and very reliable and shows up in the same place in the same way. And it's a bit of a confining or narrow box. And to me, being human is about kind of being in a constant state of evolution.
My thought on the personal brand aligns very closely to yours. I think when I work with clients and students to start to show up more, I had a hard time showing up because I'm like, why am I on camera? Why am I doing this? What? And really, I find it, I don't like the term personal brand. I find it hard to commoditize ourselves, to your point. Like, I think of it, it's like being like, that bag of sugar over there, I want you to build a brand for it. But that bag of sugar is you. And also, like, agencies, marketing agencies, they millions of dollars go to marketing agencies to build brands for shoes, beauty, whatever. And I think then us as normal humans, we're supposed to be like, show up and be yourself, but also consider what everyone's saying about you, but also don't think about what they're saying about you. I think it's just like asking so much of people that anyway. So my thesis is that I think we should rebrand it. And I think it should be something like your professional perspective, your professional point of view. If you're doing it for your job, like really just be out there, put out your professional perspective, sprinkle in some your personal perspective, and that's it. What parts of Katie the person goes into Money with Katie?
I like to think that the best parts of me are what I put into the brand. And not just the best parts, but the exacerbated parts. So I might take an element of my personality and turn it up a little bit. And then there are other elements of my personality that I might go and turn down a little bit. For example, I tend to have a stronger point of view in Money with Katie than I might otherwise have in casual conversation with somebody if I'm just like kicking around an idea.
Yeah.
Because I think that showing up with a strident point of view matters, and it's like kind of crucial sometimes for like making a point and having something salient to say.
First of all, what do you think about the term personal brand?
I think it's changed a lot over the years because we all have a personal brand. But I think for personal branding to work these days, it has to also bleed over to character branding, meaning like, what do you actually do? How do you show up in the world? And it's going to overlap. But if I say something like, I missed this meeting because I had to go pick my daughter up from school. Here's how I explain it to my stakeholders. And I'm so glad I have a flexible job. Like, that's character branding. It's not personal branding. And I think the more that we do of that, the more we'll get rewarded for who we are, not just what we do. Because personal branding is like, here's what I do, I'm awesome. Personal character branding is more like, here's who I am internally and how that shows up in the world.
So you recommend people should incorporate their values and how they exist in the world into the things that they're talking about and posting about.
I can say it's worked for me. I mean, there are other people that you'll see on channels like LinkedIn and Instagram. They just talk about the same thing every time, right? Like, it's often someone's like, here's how you get more followers on LinkedIn. That's how they get more followers. So it gets meta real quick. But like, there are some people listening who are like, dude, I don't want to do any of that stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. I hear you. What I think you could potentially do, though, is like, if you don't want to tell your own personal stories, talk about a book that you're reading. Hey, I read this book called, Give to Grow. It's awesome. That's you telling personal parts of your business too. But I think if you want to be a speaker like we are, if you want to be a media personality or get featured by the media, then yeah, it helps to have some more meat on the bone by telling these more personal stories.